Hi everyone, and welcome back to Earth Basics, the channel where we explore the most fascinating and important topics related to the geographical locations of the planet we call home. Today we have a very interesting topic for you, the US military bases around the world. You may be wondering why we're talking about this topic. Well, there are several reasons. First of all, the US military bases around the world are a huge phenomenon that affects many aspects of our lives, such as security, economy, culture, and environment. Second, the US military bases around the world are a controversial topic that sparks a lot of debate and discussion among different people and groups, such as politicians, activists, scholars, and citizens. And third, the US military bases around the world are a mysterious topic that many people don't know much about or have misconceptions about. So in this video, we're going to shed some light on this topic and answer some of the most common and important questions that you may have, such as, how many US military bases are there in the world? Where are they located? What are their purposes and functions? What are their benefits and costs? What are the arguments for and against them? To answer these questions, we're going to use some of the most reliable and updated sources of information available, such as academic studies, official reports, news articles, and maps. We're also going to use some of our own artificial intelligence tools to create some graphic artworks based on the descriptions of some of the bases that we're going to mention in this video. These artworks are not real photos, but they're generated by our model using its own imagination and creativity. We think they're pretty cool and impressive, and we hope you like them too. So if you're ready to learn more about this topic, make sure you stay tuned until the end of this video. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. And if you enjoy this content, please give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps us grow our channel and reach more people like you. So let's start with some history. The US has been building military bases overseas since the late 19th century, when it acquired colonies such as Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines after the Spanish-American War. During World War I and World War II, the US expanded its presence in Europe, Asia, and Africa to fight against the Axis powers. After the wars, the US kept many of these bases as part of its strategy to contain the Soviet Union and its allies during the Cold War. The US also set up new bases in places like Japan, South Korea, Germany, Italy, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia to protect its interests and allies in those regions. The end of the Cold War did not mean the end of the US military bases abroad. In fact, the US continued to build new bases and expand existing ones in response to new threats and challenges, such as terrorism, rogue states, humanitarian crises, and regional conflicts. For example, after the 9/11 attacks in 2001, the US launched wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and established bases in Central Asia and the Middle East to support its operations. The US also increased its presence in Africa and Latin America to counter terrorism, drug trafficking, and instability. And more recently, the US has been shifting its focus to Asia Pacific to counter China's rising influence and assert its role as a Pacific power. So, how many US bases are there in the world today? Well, there's no definitive answer to this question because different sources may use different definitions and criteria to count them. For example, some sources may include only large bases that have more than 200 personnel or more than 10 acres of land. Others may include smaller bases that have less than 200 personnel or less than 10 acres of land. And some may exclude bases that are shared with other countries or that are used for temporary purposes. According to one of the most comprehensive studies on this topic by David Vine, a professor of political anthropology at American University in Washington, D.C., there were around 750 US bases in at least 80 countries as of July 2021. This number includes both large bases and small bases. However, it does not include covert or secret bases that are not publicly disclosed by the Pentagon. So the actual number may be even higher. To give you a sense of how big this number is, consider this. The US has more military bases abroad than any other country in history. The US also has more military bases abroad than all the other countries combined. And the US spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined. So where are these 750 US military bases located? Well, they're spread across every region of the world. Some regions have more bases than others. According to Vine's study, Here are the top 10 countries with the most US bases. Japan, 120 bases. Germany, 119 bases. South Korea, 73 bases. Italy, 40 bases. Afghanistan, 36 bases. Kuwait, 15 bases. Qatar, 14 bases. Bahrain, 13 bases. United Kingdom, 12 bases. Spain, 12 bases. Now let's delve deeper into some of the larger and more prominent US military bases around the world. These bases are not only significant in size, but also their impact on global affairs. In Japan, the largest US base is Kadena Air Base on Okinawa Island, which hosts about 18,000 US military personnel and 10,000 Japanese employees. It's also home to the 18th Wing of the US Air Force, which is the largest combat wing in the world. Kadena Air Base is a key hub for US air operations in the Asia-Pacific region and a strategic deterrent against North Korea and China. In Germany, the largest US base is Ramstein Air Base in Rhineland-Palatinate, which hosts about 9,000 US military personnel and 5,000 German employees. It's also the headquarters of the US Air Forces in Europe and Africa and the NATO Allied Air Command. Ramstein Air Base is a vital center for US and NATO air operations in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, and a major transit point for US troops and equipment. In South Korea, the largest US base is Camp Humphreys in Pyeongtaek, which hosts about 26,000 US military personnel and 4,000 South Korean employees. It's also the headquarters of the US forces in Korea, the 8th US Army, and the 7th Air Force. Camp Humphreys is a crucial base for US and South Korean defense and deterrence against North Korea, and a modern facility with various amenities and services. In Italy, the largest US base is Naval Air Station Sigonella in Sicily, which hosts about 4,000 US military personnel and 1,000 Italian employees. It's also the hub of the US Naval Forces Europe-Africa and the US 6th Fleet. Naval Air Station Sigonella is an important base for US and NATO naval and air operations in the Mediterranean, Africa, and the Middle East, and a key location for humanitarian and disaster relief missions. In Afghanistan, the largest US base was Bagram Airfield in Paran Province, which hosted about 10,000 US military personnel and 16,000 contractors at its peak. It was also the main base for the US-led coalition forces in Afghanistan and a major hub for air support, intelligence, logistics, and detention operations. Bagram Airfield was closed by the US in July 2021 as part of its withdrawal from Afghanistan after 20 years of war. Now let's journey to the dynamic and complex Middle East, where US military bases are central to regional security in the fight against terrorism. We start with Al Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates. This base hosts a myriad of US Air Force assets and plays a vital role in supporting operations across the region. Heading to the Kingdom of Bahrain, we find Naval Support Activity Bahrain. This base is the US Navy's hub in the Persian Gulf, ensuring the free flow of commerce and security in a geopolitically critical area. Moving inland, we come to Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq. This base has seen its share of history, from the Iraq War to the fight against ISIS. It stands as a testament to the enduring US presence in the region. And let's not forget Incirlik Air Base in Turkey. This base has played a pivotal role in US operations in the Middle East and continues to be strategically vital. These bases in the Middle East are at the crossroads of global geopolitics, serving as a buffer against regional instability and a bastion of security in a volatile region. But why does the US have so many military bases around the world? What are the benefits and costs of having them? Well, there are different arguments for and against them. Let's look at some of them. One of the main arguments for having US military bases abroad is that they enhance US national security and global stability. By having bases around the world, the US can project its power and deter potential adversaries such as Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. The US can also respond quickly and effectively to any threats or crises that may arise, such as terrorism, nuclear proliferation, or humanitarian disasters. The US can also support its allies and partners in their defense and security needs and promote cooperation and interoperability among friendly forces. Another argument for having US military bases abroad is that they benefit the US economy and society. By having bases around the world, the US can access strategic resources and markets, such as oil, minerals, and trade routes. The US can also create jobs and income for its military personnel and contractors, as well as for the local communities that host the bases. The US can also foster cultural exchange and goodwill with other countries and peoples and spread its values and ideals around the world. However, there are also arguments against having US military bases abroad. One of them is that they undermine US national security and global stability. By having bases around the world, the US may provoke resentment and hostility from other countries and peoples who may see the bases as a sign of US imperialism and domination. The US may also get involved in unnecessary or unwanted wars and conflicts that may drain its resources and lives. The US may also create instability and violence in the regions where it has bases by supporting oppressive or corrupt regimes or by interfering in local affairs. Another argument against having US military bases abroad is that they harm the US economy and society. By having bases around the world, the US spends a huge amount of money that could be better used for domestic needs such as healthcare, education, infrastructure, and environment. The US also exposes its military personnel and contractors to various risks and dangers, such as accidents, injuries, illnesses, crimes, and attacks. The US also damages its reputation and credibility with other countries and peoples by violating their sovereignty and human rights, or by ignoring their concerns or interests. So what do you think? Do you think the US should have more or less military bases around the world? Or do you think the current number is just right? If you've enjoyed this adventure, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. And please share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. As we conclude this exploration, remember that our world is a treasure trove of stories waiting to be uncovered. Whether it's the geopolitics of military bases, the wonders of technology in space, or the depths of the ocean, there's always more to explore, more to learn, and more to wonder about. So until our next adventure, keep exploring, keep wondering, and keep seeking the remarkable stories that our world has to offer. Farewell for now, fellow adventurers, and may your future journeys be filled with awe, discovery, and the joy of exploration.